How's it going, everybody? Welcome to week 10 is where we're at. So yeah, we're zipping in almost in November. November always goes quick. Then it's December. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, this week we're doing nations. We're just kind of built up to that. Talked about, last week was this idea of philosophy and revolutions and how those kind of shape the world. The formation of kind of the breakaway, some of these early revolutions, America, French, Haiti, and then also economies, new forms of economic systems as well that formed. And this week we kind of apply those. In the 19th century was where nations came about. The first lecture here is just like what is a nation. And again, in that lecture, I kind of talk about the nations are relatively new in the concept of human history. They're created. I mean, nations are a construct. Like they don't naturally occur. We've created them, and it's an ongoing creation. Nations aren't static; they're constantly changing. So yeah, and they're a part of the 20th first century, where you live in a world made of nations. Is there going to be a world post nation? Maybe, possibly. We don't know. But right now, it's very nation based society. So it's good to kind of think through these and how these formed, and that's really what we do this week. Talk about nations in Central and South America. Those are the first phase of decolonization with the collapse of Spanish, Portuguese empires. These new nations emerge. A guy in South America who I just looked at and now I forget. Hold on a second. It'll come to me. But yeah, South American guy, the George Washington of South America, and then how those spread out again to Canada, Meiji Japan, sort of transition from Tokugawa, isolated Tokugawa, to adapting Western ideas of industry, economies, nation building, representative forms of government, all of those things, and then into Europe, right, sort of post Napoleon. Then as it kind of came back together, there was another big revolution, 1848, and then these nations came about. Things like Italy, France, England, Germany really sort of adapt this idea of a constitution, and develop that. So that's kind of nations gives the lay of the land and getting us into the 21st century. There. Yeah, and the idea of nations, these sharedness, these shared identities, shared cultures, shared language, certain borders, and really that's kind of what I want you to think about in your found a nation today. So, or for this week, again, it's make a couple notes. I gave you like all the things I want you to cover, and try to make this like a 3 minute response. It doesn't have to be anything too extensive, but give a nation a name, a founding myth, right? And then just kind of be thinking through some of these ideas. If nations are construct, how would you then construct a nation? And it can be your ideal nation. I give you full sort of liberty to talk about anything you want there in the context of a nation. But just kind of work through those. All like the main talking points are things that all nations are dealing with, have dealt with, and are continually dealing with. So just kind of get our mindset into nations there. So that's kind of this week's discussion. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Oh, and you can upload. Sorry, let me just. You can upload your video on Padlet. You can record it right on the Padlet there, and then on your phone or your device, whatever it is. So yeah, you just record it there and it'll post up. So should work. But let me know if you have any issues with it. Great. Have a good rest of your week.